The Pentagon calls for a pause on offshore wind leases, citing national security threats. The University of Oklahoma dismisses a trans-identifying teaching assistant after giving a student a 0 for citing the Bible. A U.S. district judge stops California from enforcing policies that require teachers to lie to parents about their child's gender claims at school. And recent Q3 numbers show that the U.S. economy's growth exceeded all expectations. We'll get into all of that in your quick hits now. What's up, guys? Welcome to the wrap-up, where we break down the biggest stories of the week that you might have missed but need to know. I'm your host, Erin. First up, in an effort to prioritize energy independence, the White House administration announced that it will pause leases for 5 large-scale offshore wind projects currently under construction along the East Coast. The pause stems from national security risks identified by the Pentagon, primarily the interference caused by the massive rotating turbine blades and highly reflective towers. And President Donald Trump has made his feelings on wind power known, calling it a, quote, economic and environmental disaster that drives up electricity costs and harms the landscape. The administration has heavily favored reliable sources such as natural gas, oil, and nuclear energy. Interior Secretary Doug Burgum highlighted the contrast by noting that, quote, one natural gas pipeline supplies as much energy as these 5 projects combined. The pause takes effect immediately, with shares of the involved companies dropping sharply in response. In our next story, the University of Oklahoma has removed a graduate teaching assistant from all instructional duties after she gave a 0 to student Samantha Fulnecki for referencing the Bible in a psychology essay. During an online psychology course discussing gender roles, Fulnecki submitted a roughly 650-word essay challenging an assigned article by citing biblical perspectives and guidelines that explicitly allowed students to question the topic's premises. The instructor, Mel Kurth, a trans-identifying graduate teaching assistant, faulted the student for relying on, quote, personal and religious beliefs, described the submission as, quote, offensive at times, and claimed it failed to follow assignment instructions. According to the Daily Caller, Fulnecki then appealed the grade and filed a formal claim of religious discrimination. OU reviewed the case, sided with the student by removing the assignment entirely from her final grade, and determined that Kurth's grading was arbitrary after examining her standards and past patterns. The university announced the dismissal of Kurth from all teaching duties, stating the action resolved the matter. Kurth's attorney, Brittany Stewart, responded that her client continues to deny that she engaged in any arbitrary behavior and is considering legal remedies, including an appeal. Up next, in a victory for parents, a federal judge in California issued a permanent injunction early this week, barring state and local officials from enforcing policies that require school employees to conceal or mislead parents about a child's gender identity changes or, quote, social transition at school. U.S. District Judge Roger Benitez ruled in the case that such secrecy policies violate parents' constitutional rights to direct their children's upbringing and teachers' rights to provide accurate information. Benitez emphasized that schools historically inform parents about serious matters like injuries or health issues. Yet California policymakers distrust parents on something as crucial as gender dysphoria. The judge highlighted real-world examples where parental involvement led to positive outcomes, like counseling that resolved a child's confusion and addressed underlying issues, adding, quote, these federal constitutional rights are superior to any state or local laws or state or local policies to the contrary. The ruling permanently removes parental exclusion policies and protects families across California, affirming the rights of parents. Next up, recent numbers indicate that the U.S. economy expanded at a 4.3% annualized rate in the third quarter of 2025, outpacing economists' forecast of around 3.3% and marking the strongest growth since the third quarter of 2023. The White House also attributed the results to policies like no tax on car loan interest for American-made vehicles. President Trump echoed the sentiment on Truth Social, writing, "You haven't seen anything yet." According to the Daily Wire, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent had predicted strong performance earlier in the month, forecasting the year would end with 3% real GDP growth. With no official numbers released yet, it remains unclear whether the momentum from the third quarter carried over into the fourth quarter. And now it's time for quick hits. In the small Bible Belt town of Mullins, South Carolina, leftist Mayor Miko Pickett ordered a modest nativity scene be removed from a public parking lot, citing separation of church and state and concerns about offending residents. But the Mullins Beautification Committee had the perfect response. They ignored her and kept the display up, declaring it a faith-based community where, quote, Christ is why we celebrate Christmas. Despite having a decent first half of the season, Pittsburgh Steelers player DK Metcalf may be facing suspension and a lawsuit after throwing a punch at a fan who was shouting at him during their Sunday game in Detroit. A recent report from the BBC shows that 22% of jobs advertised online last year were positions listed with no intent to hire. The report outlines that companies will post to either create a talent pool, make it appear as though their company is growing, or even use it to gather and sell data of applicants. Sony Pictures Entertainment announced it will acquire majority ownership of the iconic Peanuts IP, including the beloved characters Charlie Brown, Snoopy, and the rest of the gang created by Charles M. Schulz. Michelle Wu, the Democratic mayor of Boston, posted a video on her social media account in which she stated, with a straight face, that the Somali community is responsible for the achievements in Boston, despite the city being one of the country's oldest, founded in 1630. That's a wrap for this week. Make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment telling us what you thought about these stories. We hope you had a very Merry Christmas, and we'll see you back here next week on The Wrap-Up. Thank you so much for watching this video. In order to keep PragerU videos free, please consider making a tax-deductible donation today.